Hey everybody, Andrew the Realtor here, and welcome to the July 2022 edition of the Market Newsletter. So this one's actually quite big, and of those of you who tend to watch this, and I've noticed it's been a few hundred each of the past few months. This one will probably be over 1,000 views. So do have a look later on. If you don't have time to do it now, you can always pause and look at some of my stats and everything. But guys, I'll try to get through this fast. This one is particularly important, so please, if you're still watching this, please stay tuned until I get to the Q&A at the end. I'm going to mention one or two things that are you probably, I can almost guarantee you won't hear on the online, on social media, and on the news in terms of reasons to possibly buy now. If that sounds weird to you, please follow me with the numbers. The point is always to provide as much information to you guys as possible, to be not only information but valuable information. There's a lot of information out there. I'm going to show you stuff to actually get you guys to see kind of where I'm at in terms of the market, and more importantly, where the actual market is at. Forget my opinion and those kinds of things. But you will notice some interesting patterns from the last few newsletters if you've had a chance to see those. If not, do please check the YouTube channel. You can check out the previous one. So let me get to it right now. View, slideshow. Here we go. Myself. So this is last month, June. Now we're into the second half of July, and the reason I did this, as you guys can probably imagine, on 13th of July, we had the big interest rate hike. I'm going to talk about it, and you'll see a couple of articles really mentioning it in the newsletter itself. But if you're just getting this video, let's get through this first month, and I'll give you guys some more info shortly. So the first thing you'll notice, and you'll notice this in articles and newspapers and everything else, is a huge drop in sales. Now, 41% drop in sales this past month, June versus June of 2021. Now, it sounds like a lot. It is numerically, but if you remember, June 2021 was a record month, as were many months in 2021. And I'll show you another slide shortly. They'll give this context, and it's actually not that bad at all. In fact, it's kind of a normal June, a busy June actually, in some aspects. But let's get back to that shortly. So average price still up. Now, this is June, obviously. Now we're in July. We had the big increase in interest rates. So some things might change a little bit, but overall, I'm going to show you guys some last 5-year averages on price. And I think some of you guys might actually be surprised, maybe kicking yourselves a little bit, but that's okay. Let me take a look at this. Active listings is the biggie. So we've had huge drop in sales. Average price is still up on average, and I've mentioned many times, average is something you always have to take with a grain of salt because it includes all properties, including the ones at the bottom here. And you have active listings. So active listings up 42%. This is the biggie. Now, this says 16,093. As of this second half of July that I'm recording this now, we're just a little above that now, which is interesting, actually, because inventory tends to start lagging down a little bit towards end of August, and the fact that we're up at all is interesting. But nonetheless, we're over 16,000. Look at the difference in active listings. Last month, 16,093. June 2021, just over 11,000 active listings. Huge drop back then, which means a huge increase last month. What does that mean? That means the number of properties available is up 42%. Now, if home sales drop tremendously and inventory increases, what does that tell you? It tells you that there's a lot of stuff sitting on the market right now that people were hoping would be sold. That is a theme I'm going to continue on with for the rest of this update. Please keep this in mind. There are a lot of inventory out there right now. This time, not later. Right now in July 2022, the summer of 2022, there's inventory out there right now that needs to sell. Not like later. Well, they'll want to sell and they'll know what the current market is like at that time, say in the fall of this year. No, there are people right now who need to sell. We can talk a little bit more about that later. Notice the average prices up across the board, even detached, the minimal there. And prices are in many ways getting, they're still higher, but similar to 2021 towards the end of the year. Something very interesting, and I'm going to talk to you guys about this in just a bit. So June specifically in context. So here's what was happening in terms of what happened this year in 2022. Sales overall, very busy, very busy, very busy. Certainly the first quarter, March, of course, was a very busy month for us. Month over month now in June, we're down quite a bit. In fact, that's one thing I'm going to mention to you guys as a caveat to this being an interesting opportunity for buyers right now. So month over month, we're down quite a bit. You'll notice this is fairly normal, a little busier than I would like in terms of March, but overall as the year goes, it's a pretty busy year. Not anything too crazy, certainly not like last year. Active listings, you can see how we started incredibly low. In fact, in the beginning of January, it was actually quite a bit less than 4,000. And so we went through, now we're at 16,000. 20,000 active listings is the balanced market. So we're darn near a balanced market. And in some areas, it almost smells like a buyer's market. It isn't quite, but it's getting there. Months of inventory at 2.5 now in June, up tremendously from last month. And that is getting close to balanced market. It's not quite a buyer's, depending on who you ask, it's not quite a buyer's market yet, but it's getting there. It's still a little more seller friendly, technically speaking. And of course, average prices dropped down quite a bit from the top, which was in February. January through March, that whole area, depending what area you were, you would have the highest prices that anyone's seen in history. So interestingly, quite a big drop, and I'm going to talk about that and why you should care at all, and why you should always take that in context or with a grain of salt when you hear about it in the news and such. So days on market, here's a biggie. Days on market now 24 versus 18. So at this point, in many places, property is sitting on average, just under a month, which is obviously so much more than it was. You can see in February, March, 11 days on market. So again, you'll see a theme developing: high inventory, homes sitting longer, sales down. Starting to smell a little bit of like opportunity, doesn't it? I hope you guys take a note of that, please. Um, Here, I'm going to show you what I see in some of the articles that I've seen, and how they tend to make it sound a little more negative than it really needs to be. So this is something from TD. It says home sales could fall by nearly one quarter. Okay, wow, that sounds big. Certainly, we get a lot of clicks and we get a lot of interest, and it sounds like a big deal. Will result in a 23% annual average decline. This was mentioned by TD, full disclosure, in the beginning of July. So what they're saying is sales are going to be down quite a bit. So why does this really not matter hardly at all? And this is just an example of some of the stuff you'll be seeing regularly. I checked Google right before I kind of did this video, and I see all these market crash and these kinds of things. One thing all realtors need to do, and certainly a lot of folks that are out in the market right now, is to calm. You got to calm down. It's not what people are saying it is. Let me take a look at. Let me show you just in terms of this. So this is 5-year January through June sales, 2018 to 2022. So yes, big drop. In fact, now that we all through the end of June, this is a big drop in June sales versus June of 2021. This is a record in terms of the first half of the year, January through June. It was a crazy year. Last year, all of last year, 2021, was a record year in terms of sales volume. But look at other years: 18, 19, 20. Over here, move myself a little bit. 2022, this year, first half of the year, significantly more than some of these, and more than all three of the previous years before the crazy 2021. The point being, it sounds like a lot. It sounds like a huge drop. It sounds very big. When you take it in context of a few normal years before that, it's actually quite normal. In fact, a little bit higher. Important for the context whenever you hear this on the news and that kind of thing. So here's another something that I saw, and I just copied it from an article as an example, because for clicks and for interest, you always want to have the biggest possible example and the biggest possible drop. Even here, just look at this. This is talking about Oakville. Obviously, Oakville has a lot of very expensive homes, especially towards the water. So on an average of 1.645 million, 1.6 million, we'll say, in February of this year, during the peak of the market, which is up 65% since March of 2020. Again, they picked the highest possible area those 2 years, and because it's the biggest separation, biggest difference, and it looks very big on paper, and people get interested and they start talking about it. Hence the whole point of clicks. And they're talking about the drop. Prices dropped 5% in May, and are now down 12.4%, which is 200,000. And the whole point of the article, the headline was that the real estate market area is the most expensive area, Oakville, is down 2,200 per day, which sounds like a lot. Again, normal people looking, $2,000 a day, that's crazy. 12.4% from the highest peak. The reality is, if you look at it versus last year, it's about the same price as last year. In fact, probably a little bit higher. So how much have people actually lost? See, this is talking about money. If people didn't sell, don't need to sell at this time, and didn't buy at that time, they haven't lost any money. So as it always is, if something you own went up a lot and then went down a lot, you actually haven't lost anything because you haven't sold it. And the point of this being that even though this is such a it was such a high price in January, February, and it dropped quite a bit to where it is now. But the reality is, versus last year, if somebody had bought last year or something of that nature, which is obviously the case for somebody looking at this and going, "Oh wow, I missed out," no, they haven't lost much money at all. So the point of this is to look at this with a put the view into context. The reality is, yes, the drop was big, but again, all the comparisons you will see from now, for the next little while, are from the very peak of the market to where it is right now. So even people that bought at the peak of the market, I might add, still bought at much lower interest rates. And in my light of that, let me show you this right here. This is I found very interesting in terms of just visually looking at where the average prices have been over the past 5 years. This is a big. I hope you guys pay attention to this. Um, there we go. So here we are at the very peak, which is the very beginning of 2021. So excuse me, 2022, this year, the highest, the highest. This is January, February-ish. This is where the market was particularly crazy. Now, the yellow is 2021. This is 2020, 2019, 2018. Now, right off the bat, you'll notice we're way above everywhere else. So here, right now, we're at this point, which is way below this point. So people who are thinking, oh, I'm just going to wait till the market's lower and wait till the market's lower, look how much lower it is. Look how much lower it is already. And keep in mind, here's 2021. So now we're at the same price that we were at 2021. And I recall having the same conversation I'm having with some people right now in 2021 saying, they're saying the market's way too high. It's going to come down. It's going to come down. Well, now we're at near 2021, end of 2021 prices in some areas of the GTA. Now, had people bought in 2021, who may be watching this even now, you would have bought at the same price, similar price, maybe slightly lower than it is now, even. Say you even bought a little bit higher than it is now. Your interest rate would have been so much lower than it is what it is going to be now. You would have been buying mortgage rates of 2%, 1.99, 2 point something, 2.5. Now we're over 4 in terms of mortgages, because the Bank of Canada now is what, 2.5, where it was under 1 before. The point being, an opportunity last year that I harped on, not to pat myself on the back, and I understand it's very difficult for people to make these kinds of decisions. This is expensive stuff. The real estate in the GTA is expensive. Obviously, it's a big change. It's a big decision to be made. But the reality is, last year, even at a crazy market, record high numbers, record high prices, somebody purchasing last year at this point in time is way ahead because of the low interest rates. They were paying so much more interest. In fact, interest versus, paying off much more principal versus interest. Something I mentioned a few newsletters ago. You might want to take a look at that. So here's the thing: as interest rates go up, prices will probably stabilize now. Even if they go down a little bit, guess what? Next rate is coming up in September, and you're sitting in a pocket now where there's a bit of a wait in between July 13th and whatever the day is in September that the next interest rate hike is going to be at. Now is an opportunity. And I'll tell you, now is pretty, in terms of price, to get something in it very decent at a time where there's lots of inventory versus what there has been, at a price that is very close to what it was towards the end of 2021. Opportunity is available now, guys. It's very important for you guys to understand that. So let's just look at sales-wise and June, because I'm always, full disclosure, always explaining everything. This June was not that busy for many obvious reasons. Certainly busier than some Junes in the past, but if you look at June sales overall over the past few years, 18, 19, 20, 21, obviously 2021 was a record year, so you kind of almost negate that. Prices the sales were way down last month. I certainly noticed it myself, seeing what has and hasn't sold. Why am I mentioning this right towards the end before I get to my little Q&A here? To compile those, and hopefully they make that too convoluted. The point of all that is we're at a position now where interest rates just went up historical number at one time, 1%. It has not happened since 1998, I believe. Inventory is high, and sales, as I just showed in June, were low. If you were thinking of buying, and this is buyer heavy, but it's a buyer heavy episode, if you will. I apologize for that. However, sellers, please understand, if you're thinking of selling, you do have to buy. So you're actually a buyer as well. Right now is an opportunity. And I'll tell you why the opportunity is very specific. So let me reiterate, first of all, what are the takeaways from all of this? I want to compile this information to this specific thing because I asked you to stay this long, and if you have, I appreciate it. I'm going to reiterate last month's comments, which you can obviously look at my YouTube channel. But buyers, when people are selling, you should be buying, and especially from current sellers. So I've shown in terms of price where we are very close to prices of last year, which is not something you often get in the GTA because you've seen the way the market tends to go upward historically and especially the past few years. So not only are you looking at higher inventory, prices that are much friendlier than you think. I know everyone wants everything to drop 40, 50% so they can buy detached homes at $300,000. I know that's not happening. That's gone. Believe me. But you're sitting at a point in time right now where other buyers are a little confused. There's a psychological effect of all this interest rate changes. Maybe it's having an effect on you, and they're not in the market yet. They will be. This is all going to stabilize, and by September, October, people are going to be back into the market. Watch the sales go up. It's not going to be crazy like last year, but it'll be busy. We'll get another 40, 45,000 sales before the end of the year. We'll probably somewhere around 90 altogether, which is actually a pretty busy year. But you're sitting in a position right now, this summer of 2022, July of 2022, and next month, where there's high inventory, prices are decent, interest rates, especially if you had them locked in already from before this past increase of July 13th, you're sitting in a good position, at least better position than you are now. But even so, what if they go up again in September? Purchasing in the summer of 2022 is beneficial for one particular reason as well as those other things: average price, higher inventory, homes been sitting in a while. The people that are on the market right now, many of them are people who have been on the market for month, two, three. Those are folks who might have bought when the market was busier. Those are folks who put their house on the market when the market was a little more stable, before these crazy interest increases, before the psychological effect of that on the buyers. People that right now have their properties on the market, many of them actually want to sell. They're actually motivated to sell. No, all of them are desperate. I got two great listings sitting right now, and they're not desperate, but they certainly would sell. They're realistic. They're not just kicking tires to see who might actually come in with an offer. No, these people actually want to sell their property. So you buyers have this opportunity to deal with these kinds of sellers now. Please understand that whatever happens with the market, even if it stabilizes and you know you have more competition in the fall market is the second busiest market of the year after spring market. You're going to be dealing with people that sellers, excuse me, you're going to be dealing with sellers that already know the market. They understand what's going on. They already know the long days on market. They understand where the interest rates are, all those things. You're not dealing with that now. Right now, you're dealing with motivated sellers who actually want to sell. In the fall, you don't know that. So right now, this summer of 2022, you buyers and those of you who are looking to buy something, sell and then buy something, you have a very interesting opportunity. And I truthfully mean that because I know who's out there. I know the buyers that are out there. I know the sellers that are out there. And so I will take that. I will ponder over that. I will probably mull it over a little bit. As for sellers, because I've kind of left you out for most of this, I apologize. First of all, value has gone up. It has been up. You see the average interest price. Even if it's closer to 2021, you're still over 20 or over 19 or over 18. Most of you have been in your homes for many years, and I know exactly what you guys have, and it's a lot. If you want to sell, you have to be realistic. As I mentioned here, you have to know your numbers. I'll mention my little article I'm moving. I called it upsizing, but it doesn't even matter upsizing or not. You need to know the numbers of your area that you're going to be buying and those kinds of things, all of which I can help with. So certainly don't want to leave you sellers out of this one. So I hope this has been of value. If anything's confusing, please feel free to comment down below. If I made any of this convoluted, I apologize. It's a lot of information at once. I never want to overwhelm. But overall, I did mention in the very beginning, a lot of this goes on my YouTube channel, and I do get quite a few views recently. It's been increasing steadily. I think we'll probably be over 1,000 for this one, and maybe even so more than that after that. So if you are watching this on YouTube, do me a favor, hit like, hit subscribe on there. The information is only real estate. I send some amazing listings out. I send some market updates like this one, and I send the occasional project, pre-construction project or something like that. Strictly real estate, nothing weird, nothing to waste your time. Hopefully this wasn't it, guys. I look forward to providing valuable information. I'm seeing things. I've spoken to mortgage brokers just even this week, and it's only the beginning of the week. I've spoken to fellow colleagues. I've spoken to business people. It's an interesting opportunity right now. Definitely don't panic. And if you're looking to sell, you're not sure exactly what to do, give me a shout. We'll talk about the numbers. We'll talk about what the market in your specific area is doing, and maybe it's time to hold off a little bit before some of the others get sold, or maybe you got something that is different than the rest, and you should sell now. As for buyers, honestly, give me 5 minutes of your time. I'll tell you why it's a great time to purchase. And if not, if your situation specifically isn't right, then I'll tell you that as well, which I have on occasion in the past month or two. Guys, have a fantastic rest of July. I'll see you in August.